Welcome back to the Keeping Up with Christ channel. I'm your host Nico, and today is going to be a little bit of a different video, a little more unscripted, and kind of just try to do it in one take, and try to be as authentic as I can with this video, because today I'm going to be talking about my mental health testimony and just like my journey with it and how God has given me more wisdom and knowledge on the topic, and just showed me his strength through it all. So you might have known that I was going to upload this video if you watched last week's episode, which was about suffering. I mentioned a little bit about my journey at the end of the video, but not a lot of the history. So I wanted to make a video really going into my history with it, giving some new light on mental health, especially in the Christian world, and what it's like to have, mental health issues as a Christian. And talk about how God, again, has really shown up for me in my lowest times, and strengthened me with his spirit, and just comforted me, really, and given me hope, that just doesn't make sense, and a peace that doesn't make sense. And at the end, I'm going to also share a little bit about, my advice to maybe you who's watching the video and you're struggling with some mental health issues. I want to give some hope and advice for you, and just kind of like what's helped me, and what you can do to help yourselves. Before we get into the talk, I do want to say thank you so much for the support you guys have been showing. We're at 80 subscribers right now, which is awesome. Last video did really well, and I got tons of messages of encouragement and just how it's touched you guys and understanding suffering a little bit better. Definitely helped me also researching for the video, understand suffering a lot more. So yeah, just thank you guys so much for the support you're showing on this channel, and continue to like the videos, subscribe, share the videos. It really does mean a lot, and I just want to help others on their journey with God, answer questions they may have, and also continue to grow myself. So make sure to go follow me on Instagram. The link's going to be in the bio. It's Keeping Up with Christ Podcast, so KUWC Podcast. And we're almost at 200 followers, and yeah, I'll be posting more information about the channel on that on my Instagram, so make sure to go follow it. Before we get into the video though, I do want to say trigger warning, because I'm going to be talking about topics like self-harm and the S word, which I can't say, or else the video will get parental advisory blocked, so I don't want to say it. Now, starting off with when I first started to feel these mental health issues was in 7th grade. That was like when I first started to feel depressed, and I'm talking about depression where you don't know why you're depressed or why you feel that way. It's just that's how you feel, that's how you wake up, and that's how you are feeling throughout the day. It wasn't because something caused me to be depressed, although those are real depressions, but I'm talking about a depression where nothing exactly bad happened, you're just depressed. And during this time, I would say from 7th grade to my sophomore year of high school is a time where I definitely ignored and was embarrassed to talk about my emotions and say that I did feel depressed and anxious, and it was hard for me to concentrate on things. But there were a couple times where I would try to talk about it to a friend or my parents, and they didn't really see a need for me to get the help. Maybe they just wanted me to talk about it, and talking about it definitely does help, but I felt like I needed a little bit more than talking. And mind you, I wasn't Christian at this point. I wasn't Christian until I was 17, and at this point I was like ages 14 through 16, or 13 to 16. So yeah, whenever I got the opportunity to get the courage to tell someone, I often got laid off, and it didn't really catch their attention as something big. It was just like, oh, he's a teenager, he's just going through these emotions. But it's not just your emotions as a teenager, because at that point in time I was thinking about committing that, and I never self-harmed myself, but I really wanted to because it was a cry for help. And now fast forward to junior year of high school, so I was 17, and this was during the time of the quarantine, so COVID-19 pandemic, and this is when I started to really suppress my emotions and keep a lot of my my stresses, my anxieties, my emotions inside, so they were kind of bottling up pretty much waiting to explode. And the time finally came for those emotions to explode in 2021, April 2021 to be exact. So literally, like 4 years ago, like during this time exactly is when I first started to really feel the effects of my mental health. And the way I felt these were through panic attacks, extreme anxiety, and OCD tendencies. Now, mind you, I've never been diagnosed at that point with anything mental health. So at that time, I wasn't, seeing a psychiatrist or, a therapist or anything like that. I just had, these were new emotions for me because I never had these emotions come out through panic attacks or really crippling anxiety and OCD tendencies. But during this time is when I really started to wonder, okay, maybe God can actually help me. Because at this point I wasn't Christian. And I'm not going to go into my testimony, like how God, brought me to him. That'll probably be another video if you guys are interested in that. But this is definitely a huge factor of my testimony, was me really being at one of my lowest points of, anxiety and, controlling OCD tendencies. I really wasn't able to function as a regular human being because I was, so controlled by these thoughts that weren't true. And it was like this for, even after I got baptized in June of 2021, I still dealt with these mental issues, the anxiety and the OCD tendencies, but it wasn't really until the end of 2021 when I got healed from these things, miraculously from God. And ever since then, I've never had a panic attack. I still have like minor OCD tendencies, but I'm better equipped now mentally and spiritually to, put those aside really quickly than before. So for the rest of my senior year of high school, I would say I was doing a lot better mentally, but still was dealing with anxiety, and, depressing thoughts, just in depressive behaviors. But a huge factor that contributed to me being, at least sane was my relationship with God. And at this point, from 2022 to 2023, my relationship with God was really key in strengthening me and just keeping me sane, like I said. But it didn't have a huge toll on my mental health, I would say, in my well-being as it did before. So at this point, I would say my mental health was extremely manageable, and my spiritual life was manageable, my relationship life was manageable with other people. And honestly, life was good, but there were still, those thoughts in the back of my head that I wasn't being honest with myself about and with others and with God. I definitely still felt embarrassed to bring these up because now, since I was a Christian, I thought, okay, well, mental health is such a small thing to a Christian. Like, I shouldn't be trying to, figure out these emotions because I could just pray it away, or I could just, banish them out in the name of Jesus, which is definitely, a real thing. You can definitely be miraculously healed, but I didn't understand what it meant to, carry this cross that God's given me. So fast forward to 2024, definitely the hardest year spiritually and mentally for me. This is when I started to kind of backslide from God, which definitely played a huge role in worsening my mental health. So this progressed into extreme thoughts of self-harm and depression and anxiety, and it just combined with other stresses that happened last year with relationships. I was definitely at the lowest point I'd ever been in my life, because before that I never even thought of taking out my emotions through self-harm, but since I was so disconnected from God, I didn't really see the harm I was doing to myself and to my relationship with him, so it was my coping mechanism. And I definitely wasn't proud of this coping mechanism, obviously. I just felt too ashamed to really express myself to God because I felt like I was disappointing him, so I was just straying further and further from God. So pretty recently, like the beginning of the year, not a lot of people know this, but I was actually admitted to a mental hospital for 3 days. This was back in, last month, I'll be honest. And I'm not proud of it. That's why I'm not smiling, because I'm proud of it. It's just, this is my first time coming out publicly about it, and it's definitely scary, but yeah, I just wanted to be honest, like I said in this video, and authentic. So That's why I'm sharing it. So I was coming out of a season where it was really hard on me, like I said, relationship wise, sinful wise. I was just not doing, good spiritually, emotionally either. It just felt like life was going 1,000 miles, and it was so overwhelming for me. I just couldn't keep up. And life as a Christian is still going to be overwhelming, but since I wasn't, since I didn't have God at the center of my life and my heart, I was not anchoring onto him and his strength. Rather, I was anchoring onto my strength, which definitely ended up worsening a lot of things, like I said. Well, during these 3 days at the hospital, it was definitely a nice break, which sounds ironic, but it definitely did a lot of healing to me mentally and spiritually, because I started to see my sin and how I was straying away from God. And during these 3 days, it definitely brought me a lot closer, and God definitely showed up miraculously, because in that hospital, sadly, there were a lot of Christians, but it was a source of encouragement and strength for us. But it just shows that mental health is a real thing in the Christian world. So I met with a psychiatrist, and this was officially when I got diagnosed with what I thought I'd been having for years. I'd just been too embarrassed to, say and, think about and talk about. So I definitely got a better idea of what was going on in my mind, and like the chemical imbalance, not the chemical imbalances, but the science behind it and what these emotions are and how to better handle them. So they ran some tests on me, did blood work, questionnaires. I'm sure if you've also been through similar things, it sounds really familiar. And they ended up saying that I'm clearly depressed, and there's a possibility of bipolar disorder also. And I probably missed a couple things, but those were the major things I wanted to point out from 8th grade until now. So we've discussed that I went through depression, anxiety, possible diagnosis of bipolar, ADHD, and those are pretty much 4 out of the big 5. But that's not where the story ends, because I'm going to share also about how God has shown up within these past couple months especially. So like I was saying, this recent period of suffering through these things mentally from my mind and from my sins and my actions, it definitely showed the desperation I needed to get right with God. And it brought me to a place of surrendering my lifestyle to God and actually letting him take control of my everyday life. Now, like I said, 2024 was a bad year spiritually and mentally, but I never really ran away from God. I would say, being dishonest with myself and others, because I was living a secret lifestyle of sin. So living in this secret lifestyle of sin definitely took a huge toll on me mentally and spiritually. And that's why it's important to confess, so you can, turn away from those sins and, in repentance, turn away from them. And definitely through the past couple months, the past 2 months of really working at my mental health, God has just given me supernatural strength to just go on a day-to-day basis, relying on him and just getting better mentally. And getting better mentally has, looked like really prioritizing God and waking up every day in prayer and just centering my day around him and just digging more deep in my relationship with him. I mean, reading the Bible and all that does so much miracles, and just combined with other things, it's really just miraculous. God has definitely just given me a renewed mind, I would say. I definitely feel the difference mentally and spiritually between now and last year. It's night and day, really. And unfortunately, I did have to deal with the consequences of my sins, and definitely hurt a lot of people. But that pain definitely taught me a lesson to not stray away from God and not to, neglect my emotions. So that's kind of how God has really shown up for me and showed his strength by just carrying the weight for me, and just following behind him, really. Now, the next section I want to talk about is interesting, because I want to talk about the stigma that comes with mental health, especially in the Christian world. Now, sadly, a lot of Christians will neglect other Christians who want to talk about mental health, and they don't really put put a big emphasis on it or a big importance to deal with it. A lot of, common sayings you might hear is like, just have more faith in God, or just pray it away, or, you're Christian, you can't have mental issues, you're not really relying on God's power, which is true to an extent. I definitely think, obviously, we know God can heal people miraculously. We see Jesus doing it in the Bible all the time, in the apostles, through the power of God. But also, I feel like we as Christians need to realize that God gives us battles that can last for a period of time or even a lifetime. And saying things like pray it away and have more faith, or you don't have enough faith, makes it sound like a prosperity gospel in a way, because you're doing it dependent on your power and what you have, so that God can show through miraculously. And it's really insensitive to say, because unless you deal with what a lot of other people deal with, me included, you don't really have a right to say how it feels and the amount of suffering it causes. And I'm not playing the victim here. I definitely don't enjoy dealing with these battles, because they are hard and they are real. But it helps me to see like how God can be glorified in these battles. And without these battles, I wouldn't be able to encourage others who are also going through them. So God uses the suffering for good. And, there are times where I've been disappointed by others where they neglect me, and, they're not really having my back in this battle. It definitely does hurt, but I know there's kind of just a lack of knowledge and understanding in that area. And if you're in that position where you think mental health is not a real thing for Christians, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to me so I can maybe give more information about it, and also just do research your own. But I definitely feel like the church needs to talk about these things, especially in my generation. I think I'm Generation Z, I don't really know. But it's a huge problem for my generations, because before it wasn't really talked about a lot. Mental health, it was really stigmatized in society, and especially the church. But now we see it's a real thing, and we're starting to figure out more information about it every year. So it's definitely encouraging to see the support I've been getting from my family, other Christians, and friends. So yeah, just, who you are. I'm not gonna, shout a bunch of people out. And to end off the video, I'm gonna share some resources that have helped me and hopefully can help you in the battle with mental health. So like I've been saying all video, the most important thing, especially if you're Christian, is staying close with God. That is the center of our life, and it will not make things go away instantaneously, but it will make them a lot more manageable, because we can rely on God's strength through it. So making sure that you really prioritize your spiritual life is key. Like, that is step number one. And just also being honest with yourself and with God, because we can't run away from the truth, because the more we run away from the truth, the worse it's going to get, the worse the situation is going to get. So that's what I was doing. I was not acknowledging it and being honest with myself and my sin and my emotions. And I wasn't being honest with God. And it got me to the point of having to go to a hospital and self-harming myself, which is not where you want to be. And the third thing that has helped me, as I mentioned earlier, was support from your friends and your family and your community. Really key, because, the Christian life is not a life where you can be a lone wolf and not have a community. You need to put yourself in a community. And I'm not saying, be honest with everybody, because you can't. And a lot of people aren't equipped to deal with your baggage as some other people might be. So kind of just figure out who you can really trust with your emotions. It's not going to be all of your friends. It's only probably going to be one or two, honestly. But it's really important to stay in that community and to have that support group, whether it's your family, it's your friends, or your church. And I would also say hobbies have definitely been a game changer. Oftentimes when, I'm feeling depressed and I don't want to get out of bed, that makes it a lot worse, is staying in bed or just being on my phone or staying in my room. That definitely makes it worse, and recognizing your triggers is also important. So staying away from those things and going to things, like I said, like hobbies that can make you feel a lot better. For me, it's playing guitar, going outside, listening to music, being active, serving, through, whether I'm doing this or also other things, because a lot of the times when you're going through these emotions, your eyes are only on you and not other people. So it's important to, sorry, that's my dog. It's important to, serve, so you can also just get out of that selfish point of view of only caring about yourself when there's others in need. And the last two I would say is journaling. Really good, especially for me, since I am always having these rapid thoughts and I have a lot to say. Journaling definitely helps me to better, organize my thoughts. And the last one is medicine. Now, this is obviously not every medicine is suitable for everyone, as I've learned, and not everyone is going to be needing medicine, but I've been on medicine for antidepressants. I've been on them for a month now, and it definitely has gotten me on the good foot. I'm not solely relying on them, and I'm not, making them the only thing that's going to help me. And I know that they're not the only thing that's going to help me, but it's definitely a very, it's really just a privilege to be able to have something like this that can help me get on the right foot mentally. And it's definitely helped me just feel better, get, more active, and feel more just motivated and happy, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Very different video from what I'm gonna be uploading, what I have uploaded in the past. But I wanted to get this out of the way, not out of the way, but I wanted to share it because since talking about suffering last week, I wanted to share a little bit about what I have to deal with, but how God has really shown his strength. And I want to share a verse that has really struck me recently, and it's Luke 9 verse 23. And it says, and this is Jesus, and the verse says this: "And he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." And this struck me the other day because my friend said this to me to encourage me, and I never thought about it. Like, this is the cross God's given me, and I'm going to carry it until the end, because I'm going to show that with his strength and what he's done in my life, this cross is only momentarily for the glory to come. And I just want to help, I just want to, share that verse with you to inspire you. The cross that we carry, no matter what it is, whether it's mental illness, addictions, physical illness, this cross is momentarily. And there will come a day where, none of those things will exist anymore, and we'll be in the presence of Jesus and just completely whole and healed. So just keep on going, carrying that cross. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Make sure to subscribe, share the video, ask questions if you have any for me. And we're almost at 100 subscribers, so please be sure to share this video and to subscribe if you haven't already. And to go follow me on Instagram. Link's going to be in the bio, KUWC Podcast. And that's all, guys. So God bless you and have a great weekend.